Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I do want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Kakdash, the born the apostles, and else great millstone for teaching us true peace and blessings to the whole black of Israel. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father in Hebrew. Ba'Shem is the name, and Yahweh Shai is the name of the begotten Son. Back here in the lesson, I see within the title, a draft, question mark. The prophet's been told you. That's going to be the title. Because you see, people are in shock. They are afraid because there are major talks of, a draft now, coming into play, which the prophets, the men, Lord, which Yahweh Ba'Shem has set up among you, been telling you of these things to come. But y'all mocked, y'all scoffed, and matter of fact, you still have people coping. Which I got like maybe 2, if not 3 videos of people saying a draft is never going to happen, and I actually came across more. But I just got a couple videos saved for this lesson. But once you have a lot of people coping, saying it's never going to happen, they wouldn't do that, this and that, creating all these excuses. Hey, draft is coming whether you like it or not. You have a few brothers making less going to YNs and be first in line to get drafted. So a lot of judgment, is coming to this place, especially as the wicked of our people. And as you get in the scriptures, you're going to have, widowhood, especially being one of the main things you're going to see. Women left without husbands, sons, daughters even. Since we want to push this whole woman empowerment, agenda, but you're going to be right in line with the men. But like I said, this is really the main point going to, the prophets. Have been warning you, don't Ezekiel 33:33. You're going to know that a prophet has been among you. This is what we've been saying and warning of. Do spend proud of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, starting with the apostles and elders on down off the great millstone. There's a few like-minded brothers, on down that follow and teach the same doctrine. We've been saying these things, but people look at us like we're crazy. They mock, they scoff. That's not going to happen. You don't know what you're talking about. They would never do that. Well, what do you know? The prophets were right. But I got like 4 videos, get these out the way, get a couple scriptures, the Lord's will lesson, be edifying, and just get the main points from these.
States will never have another draft. The risk of people killing their commanders is way too high. We learned this in Vietnam. Vietnam, fragging or killing your commander with a grenade was way too common. Imagine today, where a bunch of people are forced to fight a war they don't want to fight across the world with social media propaganda.
It's also maybe why they're going to be heavily pushing this charagma, this MOTB, especially within the military, to have tracks, tabs on you at all times, and to especially control you. Which you had a while back when Elon Musk was in the beginning stages of the Neuralink. You had a article come out over you had various hundreds of monkeys died from these experiments this devil did. And you can imagine the atrocious, terrible things this devil is doing to those poor animals. And we're speaking of Esau, even here, the wicked the Bible speaks of. What can control it, what can kill it the fastest, what can shut off its brain, what can give it orders, whatever the case may be. And this is what they're wanting to put within your body. And you best believe they're especially going to implement and push this heavily within the military. And you already see the various things that they do, that you especially have to do, being in the military, shaving your head, get all these, concoctions, put within your body. I was going to say another word, just gotta be careful. But this could be, another thing that they're especially going to do is, heavily, implement that charagma, But once Jake Copen, they want to realize they're not going to do that. It's not going to happen.
In Vietnam, were throwing frag grenades at their commander because Hanoi Hannah was saying, GI, they don't care about you. They're leaving you here to die in the jungle while your wife is out having a good time at home. Imagine these social media campaigns combined with general ill will sentiment towards a draft in the United States, sending 17, 18, 19-year-old men to the front line. Especially the same men that grew up watching forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think they would have a disastrous time finding people who are willing to be commanders. So in summary, I don't think there will ever be another draft in the United States, because frankly now we know that drafting doesn't work because of fragging. And in the age of social media, where people are so easily influenced and already angry, you're going to take these people and put them to war, you're going to get your commanders killed. It would be a complete breakdown in the fighting capability of the United States.
Whether you like it or not is what you are getting ready to see. See what these commented to say. So when I see the first high-ranking IDF soldier, some people will literally just do it for a TikTok. And you have people, making jokes, making this out to be, a light thing. But especially when you have people who do get drafted, you think they're actually going to go through with what's being said right here, This is a soft, generation. This is also why, this devil is not going to, win, whatsoever. Babylon will fall as you get throughout the scriptures. You will soon have, various other nations, being arrayed against her, against Babylon, and especially turn against the whore as you get within the scriptures.
So apparently Trump's regime has decided not to rule out a draft.
So this is another example of
Because they would say, oh, we don't rule out anything or whatever, which, that probably is something you wouldn't want to rule out to not scare people. But it's really crazy because I think this generation is going to fight their war. Now, you think this generation is, first off, going to get drafted to fight for #ThatCountry? Nobody's doing that. In general, even if it was for a justified reason, people wouldn't do it. But I just implore y'all to search up fragging. You're gonna see the most unbelievable. It's not even going to end. It will end in a week from us. From the people that got drafted. They got to leave this on volunteers only because you do not want to start a draft, I promise you. That is the one way to speed run end of his presidency, man. It's GG's.
So if you're ready to see, he hasn't made that point. That's why you're especially, going to see this, MOTB be, required. He wants them to keep, tabs on you at all times and really, especially control you, And matter of fact, you're going to have Jake willingly, take these things. President easily taking that 5-year jail sentence. So Chris says he's pregnant, 1,000%.
I will never be drafted. You can't draft me. Because the fucking second they give me my service weapon, I'm blowing my shit smooth off. I am peeling my muffin cap back blue.
So you see the reaction, the people are having towards there being a possible draft. You have people coping, saying it's not going to happen, or they wouldn't do that. Well, this devil's especially going to get, desperate. You already see a lot of, missiles making it through the Iron Dome, which I believe there's a news outlet that pretty much caught a missile, going straight, hitting Tel Aviv, and I believe that they cut off the footage. Still want to control the narrative that they're on top still, or the case may be. These are things you are getting.
The White House is considering a military draft. No, I'm not exaggerating. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt was on an interview with Fox News, and the anchor asked her, hey, what do you say to those parents who are worried about their sons being drafted to fight in a war they don't agree with? And Carolyn Leavitt basically said, oh, we're not ruling out any options. Let me explain to you what that really means. The only reason you even consider a military draft for a conflict is because you are planning a ground invasion and you are expecting it to have high.
That's also another thing that has been in the talks of there being a possible boots on ground. So the ball's getting rolled.
High casualty numbers. Every angle I look at this situation from, I can find no other reason that they're refusing to rule out a military draft other than they are planning a ground invasion of Iran. You may be telling yourselves, oh, this will be just like Vietnam. No, it will be so much worse. Unlike Vietnam, the government of Iran has spent the last 30 to 50 years preparing for this conflict because they knew it was coming. That means they are better prepared for this scenario, better supplied, and better trained. And it's also worth noting that as a percentage of Iran's land, they are one of the most mountainous countries on the planet. The Iranians know those mountains, the United States doesn't. So here are some things to keep in mind. First, look up conscientious objectorship. Figure out how to apply for it. Figure out how to win an application for conscientious objectorship, because that will keep you out of a draft. Second, start talking about fragging as publicly and often as you can on social media and in real life. Keep in mind at all times that the penalty for refusing draft summons or draft deployment is a far better alternative, even though it is a 5-year sentence in prison. We have no indication that a draft is imminent. We do have a heavy indication that the United States...
But you get the point. But looking into these scriptures at hand, it shouldn't be, too big of a lesson. It's Ezekiel 33 and 33, and it says that when this cometh to pass, the Lord will come. And it's especially dealing with various other, prophecies and things that are, going to happen. But this is especially, something that we've been, pushing and, saying that would, happen, take place whether you would like it or not. As you see people, are continuing to say that's not going to happen, not in our generation, especially dealing with World War III. It's never going to happen, not in our lifetime, all these various things. Like the prophets, the watchmen, which the Lord has set up among you, have been telling and warning you of these things to come, have been blowing that trumpet, sound that alarm. But saying, when this comes to pass, the Lord will come, then shall know that a prophet hath been among them. So the light bulb is going to go off in their head, or they're going to have a aha moment, come to a realization that, hey, those men on the highways and byways were right. These lessons and videos they scrolled across, wanted to be a keyboard warrior, they were right. Ezekiel 33 and 33 said, when this comes past, the Lord will come, then a prophet has been among them. Isaiah 62, and it says, I set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Who are those watchmen which the Lord has set up? The prophets, the men of the Lord. So ye that may mention the Lord, keep not silence, and give him the rest he established to make Jerusalem a praise. And you're so constantly bugging, Yahweh Shem Shai, crying out to the Lord to get us out of here and destroy this place. Ezekiel 9:4. Put a mark upon the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. We're sighing and crying right now. We're crying out to the Lord. Further adding on to that point, now it says Ezekiel 3 and 17 says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me. And the prophets of my Lord are, his mouthpiece. And prophets are among you, warning you of these things to come. This is also in the good chapters of Proverbs 1 and 22, and it said, how long ye simple ones will you love simplicity, and scorn delight in scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Many of our people don't care for this truth. They don't want to seek the Lord. They don't want to repent. They don't want to do anything that deals with righteousness. So again, Isaiah 5 and 21, that call you good and good evil. It's all backwards. But verse 23, turn you at my reproof. Behold, I pour out my spirit unto you. I'll make known my words unto you, because I have called and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. See, many of our people are smacking with that hand. Verse 26, I also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes. Yahweh Shem Shai is going to have the last laugh. Especially through his prophets, through his men. Because you have a lot of people scoffing at us, mocking, calling us crazy, looking at us like we don't know what we're talking about. And yet look at all the things that have been taking place and playing out. The prophets are right. Through the power of Yahweh Shem Shai. You've been warned and told of these things to come, especially dealing with this draft. A brother's been going to this for years. We're going to start with the apostles and elders down of the great millstone. But read verse 26 one more time. I also laugh at your calamity. I'll mock when your fear cometh. Verse 27, when your fear cometh, at desolation and destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me. Now you want to seek the Lord. Now you want to get right. Now you want to get in order. It's far too late. But I will not answer. Seek me early, but they shall not find me. That's the point. Get these last couple scriptures, Isaiah 34, 1 through 6. The great destruction is getting ready to befall this place. Come, you nations, to hear and hearken, you people that they are to hear, and all that is there in the world. The world, that all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and In his fury upon all the armies, he had utterly destroyed them, he had delivered them to the slaughter. So a great judgment is going to befall this place. And I just went to a lesson a couple of days ago, titled the horrific judgment that is to come. Using that Zechariah 14 further going to the devastating destruction from these thermonuclear missiles. Now, it's verse 3, their slain all shall be cast out, the stink shall come out of the carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. Great judgment. And you also at that point mentioned, tons of mountains over there. But once it's especially dealing with this, great judgment you're going to see, befall this place. The destruction that is coming. The bloodshed you're about to see spilled. Verse 4, and all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. Speaking of that mushroom cloud being formed from those explosions. And all the hosts shall fall down as the leaf falls from a vine is falling fig from the fish, because ultimately this would be a nuclear war. Sure, you may see boots on the ground, which you've been seeing what's in talks of, especially with this draft, but ultimately it's going to be a thermonuclear war. As we're going to see right here, verse 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. What is that sword? Speaking of these thermonuclear missiles. Revelation 6 speaks of the stars falling from heaven. Jeremiah 50 mentions those arrows being shot. Second Ezra also goes into it, being shot from one end of heaven to the other. So it's not speaking of regular bow and arrows, but those thermonuclear missiles, as well as these other scriptures, all speaking of the same thing, those thermonuclear missiles. There's not a literal sword coming down from heaven, but that ICBM, that said, for my sword to be bathed in heaven, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. So another word for we saw Edom deal with Idumea. I read right here, verse 6, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood, made fat with fatness, and with blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams, for the Lord hath sacrificed and Bosra in the great slaughter in the land of Idumea. Just got the wrong scripture. Second Ezra 15:49, and it says, I will send plagues upon the widowhood, which you're especially going to see. Just and leave women, and without husbands, men. Poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence to waste their house with destruction and death. And the brothers made I came across the brother lesson made regarding this draft of the YNs, which are especially going to be the target, where Isaiah 4:1 is going to especially be in major effect from that. That means you're gonna be you have a lot of men being taken away, being poured into this war. We're going to leave women without men. Isaiah 4:1, how 7 women shall take hold of 1 man. So that's also a good point. Let's read one more time from our top. I'll send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence that waste thy houses with destruction and death. 2 Ezra 16:33, the virgin shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. So sons, daughters even are going to be poured into these things. Husbands, just men in general, being poured into the mix. This draft is coming whether you like it or not. And it's what you are getting ready to see, as you already having major talks, of it. Talks of being there being a boots on ground. So a lot of things are happening, and the Lord is turning things up. So I thought I'd make a lesson go into that. I came across a lot of those videos of people, coping about there being a draft, and people talking if they're, was to be drafted, boots on ground, as the case may be. And the prophets, the watchmen, the Yahweh Shai said, among you has been warning and telling you all these things to come. So once again, the prophets were right. But that's the point. They will close out, give all praise, all honor, all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, El Shai, Ba'ashem, Dash, and Shalom. See you next one.